Hello you guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If it is your first time here, you're watching Booked on Charity, and in today's video we'll be talking about my February hopefuls. I've got 12 books to show you guys. I don't know who I think I am in the shortest month of the year, but it's all right. But yeah, I'm here to show you my February hopefuls. It is a long list because I'm also going to talk about the 4 books that I'm currently in the middle of, and they will become priority if I do not finish them in the next 2 days because that is how many days are left in January. If these are the kind of videos that you enjoy watching from me, please just check that you're subscribed down below. Remember to like this video in the end if you enjoy it, and welcome to February's TBR. So I've got my books in stacks. So the first stack I'm going to show you is the books that I am currently in the middle of. So first up, we've got This Is How You Lose the Time War, and this is a story written by Amal El-Mohtar as well as Max Gladwell. So I'm not physically reading this one right now. I will show you the ones that I am currently reading. So this one I did start, but I am planning on finishing it in February. I am currently 38 pages in, and this follows 2 agents from warring factions, and their war is spanning between time and space, and one of them is called Red, the other one is referred to as Blue, and their interaction starts when Red gets a letter that says burn before reading. And I was just like, what? That is intriguing. But it also talks about this being a romance, and from what I can tell, these 2 agents are not fully human, but some kind of blend between human and robot. And as I got into the story, I was exposed more to that, but I think they both identify as females. So I guess you could call this a female to female romance, but I am really intrigued by this one. I had to pause it because I was listening to the audiobook more, but it's such a short story. And it is also very intricate, so it's the kind of story that I felt like I need to see the words on the page because there are messages hidden in between the words. So I am enjoying this one, and I was very, very excited to hear one of my favorite narrators being one of the narrators in here, because it is told from a dual perspective, from Red and from Blue's perspective. And the narrator for Blue is the same narrator for the Poppy War, which she is one of my favorites. I will put her name here. I'm still reading this one. I am planning on finishing it. It is a short one, so if I really wanted to, I could finish it over the weekend, but I am not reading it yet. I am busy now with the other 3 books that I will show you just now. The next one I want to show you is a book that I actually started yesterday while I was at work because I really wanted an audiobook, but I was not, like, I didn't feel like my brain could concentrate on the fantasy that I'm currently reading. And so I had to like go pick another audiobook because I like to always have an audiobook going, and I mostly prefer to have like a thriller or a romance audiobook that is not really accompanied by a physical book. But in order for me to work through my TBR, I did choose to go with an audiobook for a book that I do own and is on my TBR, and that is The Other People by C.J. Tudor. And I am on page 48 of this one. It is told in multiple perspectives, and we are following 3 different people. And I don't know if these people are meant to come together at some point, because in the audiobook, in the beginning of the audiobook, it mentions that that specific audiobook also has like some special short stories probably included in here. The audiobook I'm listening to is from Audible, but the main story here, we're following a guy named Gabe. And Gabe, as he is on his way back from work, rushing to get home, stuck in traffic, and just being stressed that he's late to essentially tuck his daughter into bed again. He's driving slowly in this traffic, and there is this battered old vehicle in front of him with the number plates that are not very visible, but there's a bunch of very derogative stickers on the car. And as he's driving, he sees a little girl at the back of the car, and he's like, this little girl is very familiar. And this girl looks very much like his own daughter, and is like, no, his mind is playing tricks on him. Maybe he's just really missing his daughter, and because he's thinking about her a lot, this child really resembles his own daughter until this child mouths the word daddy. And he gives chase. But this guy like drives away, weaves around traffic, and he loses him. And he goes to a service station to go and call home because his battery was also dying. And he's checking in with the wife, like, what's going on? And he finds that something has happened. His daughter has been kidnapped. At the point where I am in the book, I don't know what has happened to his wife, but we've moved on 3 years later, where this guy, his life has been turned upside down. He's like left his job. He's gone skinny. He's looking sickly because every single night he spends driving around the same highway looking for this car that took his daughter. So his daughter has been missing for 3 years. I was very nervous when I got into this one because I am really afraid to read stories about like featuring children in them, and obviously there's a kidnapping here, so there has been nothing graphic so far, but I'm still nervous. I'm still afraid, and I hope that there isn't anything graphic. The second story we're following is a young girl who seems to be in a coma, and she's been kept alive by these machines. And in the room that she's in, there's also like this old piano, and for some reason the C-sharp key keeps getting played, but there's nobody else in the room with her. So I'm just like, what in the paranormals? And in the third story, we're following another young girl with her mom, and they're on the run. We don't know what they're running from at this point, but they just keep moving from city to city, running away from something. But this girl also has this, I don't even know if I should call it a condition, because I feel like it's also a little bit paranormal, because she keeps falling asleep in these weird places, but all the places that she falls asleep at are places with mirrors. So she's got this phobia with mirrors, and she keeps seeing this ghost-like person in this mirror, and every time she sees that person, she falls asleep. She literally falls asleep, and she wakes up with a pebble in her hand every single time. And it's just like, where are the pebbles coming from? And she claims to have been at the beach. I don't know, but there's lots of mysteries in here. Safe to say, I'm very intrigued by this one. I'm so excited to keep reading it and listening to the audiobook. The audiobook is good to listen to as well. So yeah, The Other People, I am definitely in the middle of reading. The other book that I'm constantly reading, and I'm mostly reading this on my Kindle as well, in the mornings and in the evenings and during my break times. This is the book that I actually physically pick up, and it is Six Scorched Roses, and this is a novella by Carissa Broadband. This is a novella in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and I am on page 64 of this one, and we are following our main character Lilith, who lives in the small town, and the small town has been cursed by their god that they pray to, and there's a plague. Everybody's dying of this plague, including her sister. So she is a scientific woman, and she goes and seeks out this vampire to have a deal with him, to offer him 6 roses for 6 vials of blood, so that she can test his blood and see if she can essentially create a cure for essentially her sister, but also for her town, because this plague has been going on for like years and years and years, and her people are dying. Nothing has worked. So I'm at a point where she got the vampire to agree to give some of his blood for these roses. We don't know what makes these roses so special that there could be payment for vampire blood, but we will see. And I'm assuming that this is a fantasy romance, but there has been really no romance in it yet. And I thought that we would be following some of the characters that we followed in the first duet, the Nightborn duet, but these are completely different characters, although they are still set in the same world, and there are little bits of information that is been told that you would know from reading book 1 and book 2 of the Nightborn duet. But having an amazing time with this one. I am so intrigued to seeing what this relationship will morph into between Lilith and Vale. Vale is the name of the vampire, and whether she'll actually be able to save her sister or not. I will assume yes, but we don't know with these things. Sometimes the authors will shock you, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the rest of this. And then the final book that I'm currently in the middle of is another vampire book. I just love that there's so many vampire related books right now. There was a time where we had a lot of fae books and everybody was writing fae romance, okay? But now we're getting a lot of vampires, and this one features black vampires, and this is Immortal Dark by Tigest Gurma. I am currently reading this one and I am on page 48. I'm like on page 48 on all of these books. I'm on page 48 of this one, and we are mainly following a character called Kidan Adan, and Kidan is a human, and in the story our vampires are mostly at this university called Uxley, and this university also serves as a housing environment for vampires and human families that are allowed to attend this university to study some course that talks about the history of vampires and humans. So you have to study kind of like the relation between vampires and humans if you go to this university. As I mentioned, this university houses vampires and these human families, and this is because there was a time where vampires were running rampant and killing off humans, and then the sorcerers, or the last sorcerer they mention, created kind of like this bound where these vampires have to kind of like get limited and stick by certain rules, and one of those rules is they are only allowed to feed off specific families, and these families are what constitutes the families of Uxley University. Kidan Adan happens to be one of the last family members of the Adan family. It was her and her twin sister who's now gone missing, and her aunt who just passed away. So Kidan, number one, is now forced to go to Uxley because she was taken when she was young, her and her sister, away from this university and hidden. But now their house has to be passed on because the aunt has passed away, and if she doesn't go back to Uxley, the last vampire for the house Kidan stands chance to inherit this house. So it's like, if you don't want a vampire to inherit this house, then you have to come to this university. But if you're at this university, you need to enroll in a course to be at this university. So Kidan was raised to fear vampires but also hate them, so she does not know the history that all the other students from Uxley has grown to learn, and she didn't get the opportunity to get the information passed down to her and her sister. And on top of her sister getting kidnapped allegedly by a vampire, and she's been searching for her sister. So there's also that like mystery element to it, and she's trying to solve that mystery of where her sister is. We don't know at this point if her sister is alive or not, but I'm at a point where she just moved into this house with this vampire, and it's not going well. It is not going well, and this is why I'm like, I had to pause this one. This is the audiobook I had to pause because I feel like I wasn't concentrating, and it's very important for me to like get all the details here, especially in the beginning of the book. I feel like it sets the tone for my level of enjoyment of the book if I really understand the premise of it from the beginning. So yes, these are the 4 books that I am currently in the middle of. I have spoken a lot and I've spoken a lot because I do know a little bit about these books as I am reading them. But yes, this is the first stack. The next book on my radar is a book that I have to finish in February because it is our book club read for the month of January and February, and that is Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. This book is well known. My Kindle version is not showing up as nicely, but yes, I'll be reading this from my Kindle. If you guys are interested in joining our book club, there is a link in my description down below and you can join us. I have no idea what this book is about. I will keep it that way, go into it blind, but I've heard really amazing things about it and I can't wait for our discussion for the book. And then the next stack, I've chosen 2 books from my middle grade. Well, actually I've chosen 1 because the other one is part of my Read It or Unhaul It vlog, and I need to get through the books that are on that vlog, okay? And it doesn't even have a cover because my daughter's ripped it off, but it's called Max Einstein Saves the Future, and this is part of a series written by James Patterson. I hope that I don't need to have read the first book to read this one because I do not have the first book. The first book is Max Einstein and the Great Experiment. I know that they're part of a series, but I feel like I can read them as standalones, and I just hope. Okay, and I like that they give us these stories so far. So I don't really need to be that hung up on having to read book 1. I will read this one. I'm gonna read them as like standalones. So I've got that, and the book that I did pick for the month is a middle grade that I actually really love, and for some reason I did not continue. Okay, I know that my first reasoning was because I didn't have book 2, but I got book 2 last year and I didn't pick it up. So I will be re-listening to book 1. I don't have the physical copy of book 1 with me because I did borrow it to my niece, and I've got book 2, so I will be listening to book 1 on the commutes sometime when I'm done with the other people. But this is from the Pages & Co series by Anna James. Anna James is one of my favorite middle grade authors, and this is book 2, Pages & Co, and it's called Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales. So Tilly is this young girl who lives with her grandparents above a bookshop, if I remember correctly. That's why I need to reread. Above a bookshop, and she loves to read. And one day when she's downstairs reading her favorite books, Alice in Wonderland and all these classic books, the characters from these actual books come out, present themselves to her, so she can actually see and interact with these characters. And then she also finds out she can actually jump into these books and be in the world of these characters, and this is what they call book wandering. And she finds out that this is something that people in her family have been able to do. But I really love the story. It's so sweet. There's a very nice friendship element in book 1 as well, and there's a sort of like a mystery element because her mom disappeared some time ago and nobody knew what happened to her, but she does actually find out in book 1. So I just want to refresh my mind, reread the book. So I will definitely listen to that on audio, and then I will go into book 2, but I can't wait to continue with the series. Like I said, it's definitely one of my favorites. I am recollecting these in hard covers because I really love the hardcovers. They're so pretty. And then I'll keep the paperbacks either for just my rereads, or I'll donate them to my niece, who I think she'll love these books as well. Okay, next deck I have is YA books. I haven't read YA in a long time, and I think I am slowly falling out of love with YA, especially fantasy YA, but I still have a lot of fantasy YA to get through, so I do want to read my YA shelf, and so that I can donate those books when I'm done. However, I still do enjoy YA thrillers. Those ones I think I want to keep. But the first one I've got here is One of Us is Next by Karen M. McManus. I read One of Us Was Lying 2 years ago. Absolutely loved it, enjoyed it. Why did I not continue the series? I have no idea. And now I'm like trying to set things right because I have all the books now. I have all the books and then some from Karen M. McManus. So yeah, I just want to continue with the series, and her YA also reads very easily. So I know that it's one that I could read quickly and just mark it off. But yes, I've got One of Us is next. And then another YA that I've had on my radar for you guys for years, and I've had this book now for years, but I haven't read it. And I know that it's a book that I probably will give away to my niece to read and keep, because I don't think I want to keep it. I don't think it's something that I would probably want to like reread, but I still want to consume the story. And it's also part of my Read It on Harlot book, which I guess I'm spoiling right now because I'm already planning on unhauling it, and that is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I think this book will be more related to her. She is a teenager who's turning 14, 15, and I feel like she'll relate more to these stories than I ever will. So my thing is, if I'm gonna give a book to someone, I have to read it. I have to read it. I have to see what the tropes are. I have to see what the triggers are so that I can see if it's good, if it's good enough to give it away. So this is why I'm going to be reading it first. But yes, heard good things about Angie Thomas's work. She writes Black characters, and there's always like some very touching story to it. I haven't read anything from her yet. This is going to be my first time reading an Angie Thomas book, so I'm looking forward to it. And then lastly, a book that I have been interested in a long time, and I recently borrowed the audiobook from my library. So I was like, you know what, this is the best opportunity for me to actually pick up this book, and it is Defy the Night by Bridget Camera. I've heard great things about the series. I've got book 1 and book 2 already, so I think it's high time that I get into it and see if it's a series that I want to continue with. The final stack I have is adult fantasy, no sci-fi. Yes, adult fantasy. First one I got is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is for me to continue on my Mistborn journey. I read book 1, The Final Empire, in December. Really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4 or 4.5 star rating. So I'm expecting to give this one a higher rating. I don't know. I hope there's no, book 2 syndrome type situation. But with like high fantasy and sci-fi, book 2's like they hit the spot. And I hope that this will do that as well. Really looking forward to reading this one. I love the magic system and the story. I love the political intrigue. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Brandon Sanderson will give us in this one, because I want to finish the Mistborn trilogy before I get into the Stormlight Archives, and I am being strict with myself to not start the Stormlight Archives, even though I have book 1 and book 2 in completion. I am still collecting book 3, 4, and 5. So yes, I want to read this. And then going back to an author that I actually really love, but I've been bad at picking up her books. But since I read January's last year, I was just like, give me more Olivia Blake. And the one I am picking is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. This is another one where I had borrowed the audiobook from my library. And then I had to return it because I was not ready to pick up the physical book yet, but I'm ready now. Look at this cover. I love it. And Olivia Blake always has like illustrations in her books, and I can't wait to see what all of this means. And I'm trying to look for the one that I just saw now. This is giving the same kind of illustrations as we have in the Atlas 6 series, which I also still need to go back to, by the way. Oh, but yeah. I thought it would be great maybe to read one of her standalones again so that I can work through my big pile of Olivia Blake's books. And then another author that I really love that I want to get back to is TJ Klune. And I want to read the second book in my favorite book from him, from like the series. And the first book was called The House in the Cerulean Sea. Let me just see what the name of the series is, because I thought it would be like a standalone. It's called The Cerulean Chronicles. So yeah, I've read The House in the Cerulean Sea, I've read Under the Whispering Door, and I've read In the Lives of Puppets. Absolutely loved everything. I do not doubt that this is a book that I will love as well. TJ Klune writes such beautiful, cozy fantastical books that will always make you think, and the romances are always so like hard-hitting, and I'm just like, I'm ready to get back to this author, one of my favorite authors. So yes, I'm ready to read Somewhere Beyond the Sea. And then the final book I have of my TBR is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I had actually sampled this book, I want to say 2 months ago, and my audiobook loan ran out, so I'm like, I will pause it because I feel like I do when I read it with the audiobook. But looking forward to this one. I don't really know much about the synopsis, and I will keep it that way. I think the only thing I know is that our main character is in hiding, and she's part of a royal family, and she is trying to join this competition so she can get the chance to kill the king, who happens to be her uncle. That's it. But yeah, these are all the books that I'm planning on reading in the month of February. Let me know down below which books you are choosing to read in February. You will see that I don't have a bunch of romances. I don't believe in that kind of setup for reading. I read what I like. This is what I want to read now. But yeah, if you made it this far in this video, remember to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, but you've been enjoying my content, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.